For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
WFO! It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. WFO Radio back on the air with our 2022 Parade of Lucas Oil Champions. That's right, Super Gas World Champion Bob Locke going to be joining us just seconds from now. We're going to speak with him about his championship season, everything that went into it. Yeah, go West, go to the finals, got to win the event. No problem. Gets it done, wins the world championship. Bob is standing by. All kinds of big breaking news since our last interview. We spoke with Jimmy Hidalgo Jr., the country puppy, a little bit earlier. And since then, big breaking news. The Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty event that's going to be happening on Saturdays at the NHRA National Events. A replay, a rerun of the previous week's semifinal matchups in each of the Camping World Series categories. An opportunity for the teams to make more money, to win more accolades, to get some championship points. It's going to be really interesting. And for me, we're going to know who's going to race whom at the next event when we leave the current event, right? When we leave the Gator Nationals, we know who's going to run in the semifinals in the Too Fast, Too Tasty at Phoenix. And so what does that mean? We're going to be able to handicap it. We're going to be able to discuss it, debate it. We're going to talk about it. We could place, wagers. Those of us who like to do that stuff. It could be very interesting discussion points and a lot of money on the line for the NHRA teams. Big news out there. Go to NHRA.com to find out more information. We'll talk about it after we speak with Bob. Before we bring on Bob, though, I want to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO. I like to name check them at the start of every show, the day that you need them. Remember that they are participating with bringing you this great content like Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Make them your first call, not your last call. All those high-performance parts that you're buying, if you don't have ring seal, you got nothing. So go to TotalSeal.com. You can order a single ring right from their website. The Hidden Horsepower podcast is there, and they've got a great team, customer service, top-notch Total Seal piston rings. You already heard a little bit about FTI performance transmissions and torque converters. Those .90 categories, they're everywhere. Big money, bracket racing, top dragster, top sportsman. FTI is everywhere. It can be in your car, too. Foggett, Gary Stinnett, recognized the problem. He says, this is a problem we need to solve. And he solved the problem with Foggett. At the end of your day of racing, you put the car away, you spray a little Foggett, you fog it down, roll the starter over in each of the Venturis, get down into the cylinders, and it protects the cylinders from damage overnight. Like, well, what kind of damage? Well, go to the website, foggett.com. They've got a YouTube channel as well. But condensation immediately causes microscopic rust. You've just spent thousands of dollars on your cylinder wall surface, and you're going to let it get destroyed or damaged or changed? No. Use a little Foggett. Great stuff. Great product. We'll be telling you more throughout 2023. Phillips-Connect, for those of you in the transportation industry, email me, Joe, at WFOradio.com. If you've got a fleet of trailers, you want to get hooked up, if you want to get connected with the smart trailer technology, email me and I will put you together with the folks at Phillips-Connect. You got a wheel hub heating up, you got some sort of problem, tire pressure going down, the sensors tell you before the damage happens. Bernie Speed Shop, this is Josh Hart's business, door to door. Can I wash your car? Can we detail your car? Grows into a 100,000 square foot business with millions of dollars of inventory. They got a Ford GT over there right now. They do frame off restorations. They do everything in Ocala, Florida there. Go to bernies.com, follow their social media. It's as simple as that. If you've got a car you're looking to sell, maybe do consignment. Go to bernies.com to find out more. Later on in the show, I'll tell you about samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Later on in the show, I'll tell you about Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. And of course, the best coffee in the world, Marvin Rodak's coffeeandgrills.com. We'll tell you about Marvin. But right now, it's time to bring on the 2022 Lucas Oil Super Gas World Champion, Mr. Bob Locke. Bob, welcome to the show. Congratulations.
Hi, Joe. Thanks.
World champion. How does that sound to you now? A couple months later, it's definitely sunk in. You had to have woken up a bunch of times thinking about how in the world did that all happen? So give me the debrief session. How does it feel?
Oh, it feels good. It is a little surprising sometimes to still hear it. It was definitely a surprise, and the way it all played out. But I like to hear it, so you can say it as many times as you want.
Super Gas World Champion Bob Locke. And get ready. When you get out there next year, you're going to hear it a lot because your story is so amazing. We didn't know it was going to happen this way, but I heard many different stories about, your plight, right? Like you're looking good in the points and you had some good runs and you won some races, but might not go west, and how the other racers were like yelling at you. You got to do it, man. You only get this championship opportunity. And then to think that you went out there and you went to the finals and you won the finals to win the championship. That's insane. But let's start at the beginning, Bob. Let's start at the beginning, which is this. How did you get into this? How did you get started racing? Like, how did you get to the point where you've got a world championship super gas car? It's a very specialized thing. Not everybody finds their way into the .90 categories. How did it happen for you?
Well, we started bracket racing when we were much younger, and we had a car that we were successful with bracket racing quite a bit. And a friend of mine got us into super gas racing. Basically, he said, come out to the track sometime and see what we do. It was the U.S. Nationals that particular year. And my friend Scott Deffenbaugh said, come out and see what super gas is all about. So at the time, we had a pretty good Super Pro car, but we came out the next year, actually, had it set up to run super gas. And we did it not very successfully for, 2 or 3 years, 4 years. But decided that we better have a car if we're going to do this that's a little more purpose built. So that's where the Roadster came into play. And we've been racing that car ever since. We've had it for about 9 years. And
the has it been constant refinement with the car, or have you just been like figuring it out? Or, it's not easy. That's the thing that the fans don't understand. Certainly fans of Nitro who go out there and see these cars on throttle stops, they're like, why do they slow down? Right. But it's just incessant refining, whether it be your data, your weather station, your car, everything. Talk a little bit about how you got this thing championship worthy.
Well, it was a pretty basic car. I mean, the car's 20 years old, so it didn't have a lot of updates when we bought it. We pretty much, besides painting it, put it on the track in the condition that it was in. Big block power glide, which is a combination for almost everybody in super gas. And we ran the car pretty much unchanged for I don't know how many seasons, and then decided, like you talk about refinement, there's some things that we're not understanding or things that need to be a little better. So you start tweaking there, tweaking that. You just start learning a little more about the setup, what the setup needs to be on the car. Introduced a race pack system to the car, which has been really, really helpful. And you're right. You just constantly refine it, learn things about driving better. Hopefully every lap you're learning something about what you screwed up the lap before, so you don't do that again.
Mandatory, right? Data acquisition. I was told recently, like data acquisition, if you're going to be in the .90 categories, it's mandatory because you got to be able to go back and see, did you spin the tires a little coming off the stop? Did you any one of 1,000 different things that might show up on your data logger?
Absolutely. Super gas cars are pretty finicky. So if you don't have that, you just really don't know what changed on a particular run. So got to have the data.
All right, we got a lot of people out there checking in. Blake checking in, Jim Essex checking in. Everybody excited. We've done 2 shows here today. I don't know what we're thinking. Such a tough category in sports and racing to win. Congratulations, Bob. People
Thanks.
out there weighing in. Did you start 2022 thinking we're going to go chase a championship, or was it like, hey, we're going racing this year, super excited, and then you started hot? Talk us through the first third of your season from the outset.
All right. No, we didn't start the season expecting to go championship hunting. Divisional championship hunting, yeah. We finished 3rd in D3 the year before. So I really wanted to take another swing at that and see if we could come out on top. But we certainly weren't looking at national points. We really never have, because we just never travel enough and run enough national events to earn enough points to do any good. So we actually wanted to start our year this year in Charlotte. We were going to go down to the 4 wides and run, and car wasn't ready. So we didn't go down to Charlotte, which turns out to be a pretty interesting thing when you look at the claims that I have had left after St. Louis, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But so we didn't make Charlotte. Our first run this year was last year was the Indy Divisional. That's our home track. And historically, I'm terrible there, and I didn't disappoint this time either. It was a round 1 exit. So we didn't start the year well, but we went to Norwalk to run a divisional next and made it to the final, lost in the final to Rob Kropfeld. I have seen cars do weird things on the starting line before, and I've scratched my head going, how in the world does that happen? Well, now I know how you can come up. You can bring the motor up on the starting line and the car launch before you expect to. I think somewhere after the burnout, I touched the trans brake button and the car was in 2nd gear when I left. And so that ruined the final run. So Rob was tough in the final. I don't know that I could have beat him anyway. He was 90 with a 5. So, but we made it to the final in that 2nd run, and we ran some pretty tough people that day. And I was pretty happy with the performance at that race.
So many champions over the years get a hot start, right? It just gives you that confidence.
Right.
Go out, get a final round under your belt, and so continue along.
All right. So the next race we had was our Norwalk Divisional, and terrible again. I'm on a pathway of hero or zero when it comes to racing, and we were out in round 1. I'm sorry, the Norwalk National. Yeah. So our start to the season, I had a runner-up, but we also had 2 first-round exits. So I wasn't feeling any special superpowers at this point, because we had 1 race go our way all day, and the other 2 were just not good. So we head to Columbus for the next, actually a double. In Columbus, we have the Sports Nationals in D3, and then we run a divisional this year, which I think is usually 2nd. But Sports Nationals would have been technically our 2nd national event. We went out in round 3. I don't remember who we raced, but I felt decent about our outing there, even though I wasn't excited about exit in round 3. But it was a solid performance, and we just didn't get past it. But and then the divisional rained out, so weather was pretty bad that weekend, and they just ended up canceling the divisional there. So the next one was the Chicago Divisional, which was pretty cool to be back there. None of us had been back there for quite some time, and they had a pretty good turnout, but the weather was not, again, very favorable. And we ended up, I don't remember what round the race was canceled, but we were still in it. We didn't finish that until we went to Bowling Green. And I ended up losing in the final of that race, which was completed in Bowling Green. So at that point, we had 2 runner-up finishes, at least in divisionals, which was beginning to build a reasonable divisional score already, even though we had some early round exits. But and then again, we go to Bowling Green right before the U.S. Nationals, round 1. So
Yikes.
Up and down. That's almost half my season, but very up and down that first half of the season.
Wow. And that's it. The roller coaster. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough out there. You're flipping quarters, right? It's like heads. Yay, I win. Tails. Oh, I lose. And,
exactly.
And that's drag racing. Okay, so let's give a showcase of coming into the season. Luke Bagacki, one of the greatest of all time. He's the champ, and he's running well. Are you monitoring the guys that are in the front of the points? And what were you thinking at this point about the way it was all stacking up competition?
I still wasn't looking at national points at this point because, I mean, we had our first round loss in Norwalk. We had a third round loss at the Sports Nationals. We go into Indy to the U.S. Nationals, and I felt pretty decent about the way the year was going at this point because of the finish of the Chicago race. I thought, well, I've had a couple of outings here where I've had a pretty good finish. And we win round 1 of the U.S. Nationals. We win round 2 of the U.S. Nationals. And I was feeling, this is a bad thing to do, I was feeling good about round 3 when I was doing my planning for this race and look at my competitor, and then he lays a 6-pack on me. So we're done in round 3 exactly at the U.S. Nationals. So lesson learned in that scenario. But
what's the lesson, though? What's the lesson? Don't think, right? Don't have emotions.
Probably so. Definitely don't plan on a W. That's for sure.
All right.
Because he laid it on me. So we go out of division for the first time in Earlville after the U.S. Nationals. Round 2 exit, nothing great there again. And so at this point now we're heading into St. Louis, and I haven't looked at national points. I'm not looking at national points at all, but we had entered the St. Louis National event, and my son looked at the national points, and he said, "Dad, if you could possibly pull off 10 round wins in the next 2 weekends, that's 3 races. That's the national event in St. Louis and then the 2 divisionals in St. Louis." He said, "You might finish top 10 nationally." He says, "You have a shot at it if you could just pull off 10 round wins." And I thought, if ever there was a year where we had a chance, I mean, we've had ups and downs, but I mean, we've gone deep a couple times. Maybe we can do this in 3 events. So we have a semifinal appearance in the national event in St. Louis. So that was a really good outing for the first weekend. And Rob Kropfeld beat me again. So he
got his stat right. Like, I beat the world champion twice in the same year.
He went on to win that event. And then comes the crazy busy divisional weekend, the following weekend, where we had a record number of cars. Super Gas was an 8-round race in the first event of the doubleheader. I end up losing in the final of that race. And kind of a cool side note, when you're racing and you have certain people that you travel with and friends, you always talk about all the time, man, wouldn't it be cool if we met in the final? Let's meet in the final. This would be really fun. So I did meet in the final with my good friend Scott Deffenbaugh in that first race in round 8, and he ends up putting it on me in the final and takes home the Wally in the first race. So he had a really good outing, but it was a good day for both of us. And
that's the guy he got you into it. You were just telling the story. That's exactly awesome. Right. That never happened.
Right. So we race with them all the time, and we try to go everywhere together. And it just makes it more fun. They're a big part of our racing family. So we go into the next event, and we just normal 7-rounder. There's a few people must have gone home, and we end up winning that race, ironically, against Luke in the final. So I feel like if you're going to have a championship run that turns out on the good side, you've got to have some really tough rounds along the way or beat some really big people. And it was definitely made me feel good to win in the final against him because we know he's tough all the time.
One of the best. People go to him for. Do you remember the race? I don't expect you to have that off the top of your head, but maybe you do.
I do a little bit. We were both similar on the tree. I had him just a little bit. It was nighttime at this point, and we run 159 mile an hour in super gas. That's really not very fast anymore. And so I spend a lot of the time looking behind me when you're going down track, trying to see where they're at. And I knew it'd be hard to see at night against him. But then I think if we'd asked him, he probably had some mechanical issues a little bit. I know he dumped it at the end, but I don't think he was going to get there, which is very unusual for him. And so I end up dumping at the end. I think he dumps at the end. I stay in front. I end up, I think, going 90 with a 6. And he ended up running considerably more off than that for the win light. So
copy that. So 3 runner-ups, now a win, and you outpaced what your son was hoping for by a considerable amount, right? Like an
18-round wins in 3 races in 2 weekends.
And just turned the point situation upside down.
Really did.
Talk about like the drive home or however that, like, hey, like, wow, well, that went pretty well. That's usually a fun conversation. What was that like?
Well, because we've never traveled far outside the division. I mean, Earlville, last year we went to Virginia because we were chasing the divisional points. So we thought there was a chance we could win the division. So that was the farthest we'd ever been. The thought of going from Indianapolis to Las Vegas and then to Pomona was pretty overwhelming. Between time and expense, we run a small business, and we've got great people that work with us, but it still puts a load on them if we're going to leave town and be gone for almost 4 weeks. So we were really tossing all that around in our mind, and I think my wife was half scared to death that I'd say let's go, because that puts a lot of pressure on her too. Just as a family, things that she has to do, and we work together too, so she knew what that would mean for the office. But we weren't going, initially we just weren't sure we were going to go. We had a lot of people. I got a call Monday morning from somebody, a friend of mine that I don't talk to very often on the phone, but I answered the phone and the first words were, "Hey, when are you leaving?" I said, "Well, I don't know if we are." So it did kind of snowball from there. And we had people that said, "We want you to go. How can I help?" That's how it originally started. And multiple people just said, how can I help? I want to help you. And I threw out, financially, if people wanted to help pay for some fuel, I'm sure that would help us make that decision, because, even for a national championship, it's hard to decide to drive across the country and back for the financial decision, because your expense and travel is substantial. And so, the odds were that you weren't going to win. And if you're going to make that kind of financial commitment, you need to be serious about it.
Absolutely. Well, and that's like, people are probably thinking, well, wait, you got to do whatever. No, not necessarily. Like championships, like going across the country, I'm going to put a number on it. Like it's several thousands of dollars just to get there, to stay there, to be there, to live, to buy your, I'm sure you got a motorhome or something. So you still got to feed yourself. It's not inexpensive, but they leaned on you. The peer pressure was strong.
It really was. But it was fun in a lot of respects to watch. And I use the word humbling a lot. To think, I guess it challenged me to think this way about people that we know that might be in similar situations. Would I be as excited for them and want to help them go accomplish what could be a lifelong dream? And it was a real gut check for me, because a lot of people wanted to see us go and get out there and win. So it was just extremely cool to see. So a Facebook campaign started. Some friends of ours said, "Hey, who thinks Bob needs to go chase this championship?" And that's when the messages really started flooding in. And I threw that out about the fuel, and people started responding, and they started contributing to a fuel fund. And it was just quite incredible that people would do that. And a lot of people that I don't know, or I barely know, but some people I didn't even know at all, that just simply said, "We've had people do this sort of thing for us in the past. We think this is a cool opportunity, and you need to do this, and we want to help you." So
that's amazing.
Pretty cool.
Before we tell the story of being out west, you went through some personal struggles a few years ago.
Right.
And now you're back, but that's part of the story, right? Like, you don't know when this wonderful racing experience that you've got going with the family and going out there, you had a scare and had to acknowledge the reality of, like, this thing could end at any time. That has to make this even more sweet. Just the experience. It's like, I'm in the world championship fight and I'm going west.
Yeah, it does make a difference, and it still makes a difference today. We had a cancer diagnosis right at about 2 years ago, stage 4 prostate cancer. Stage 4 is a scary thing to hear. Cancer is a scary thing to hear, but stage 4 is a scary thing to hear. So we went on some very aggressive treatment, which I'm still taking a lot of high-powered medicine. So I wouldn't say that we're done with the treatment. In August, a little over a year and a half ago, I went through and underwent 44 radiation treatments. That's when we were at the height of what was happening with the cancer. But I'm still taking all the same medicine that they put me on originally. And I'm still going to be taking it through August. So my numbers are incredibly good. I feel really good. But the fact is, I mean, I'm still on medicine for this illness. And the one day where they look at me and pull me off and say, let's see what the body does, will be pretty scary for me, because, I mean, I'll always feel like I have it. He said he'd never tell me that I was cancer-free because of the depth of which I had it to begin with. So it'll always be in the back of my mind. So since this all started, our family motto is, what are we waiting for? We've done a lot of traveling, a lot of different things this year, even in the midst of all the racing. And probably that was a really good motivating factor for us to go out west. Here we have an opportunity. Who knows if we'll ever have it again? Let's go see what happens. That was why.
I'm sorry you have to go through that, Bob, obviously. And this is something that so many of our friends, fellow racers, family members, everybody knows somebody, and the fact that you're fighting that. But I also think that what's the best medicine, right? Like the best medicine is loving your life and doing and enjoying the things that you enjoy. And so now you're going west, and you're going to go to Vegas, Pomona. And what do you got to do? Like, what's like when you're going out there, like, we have to do what? Because Vegas didn't go so great.
No. And when we first set this trip up, we were in second. We were only 3 rounds out of first place. Luke was in front at the time. And so we make the decision to go west. The Dallas National event happens. Phil Unruh goes out and wins it. So he goes from third place to at least 2 rounds in front of Luke, 5 rounds in front of us. So now my hope was, because it didn't change our mind mathematically, we still had a shot to go, so we were still going to take this opportunity. But I hope that we could chip away at it a little bit in Vegas, and then maybe get over the hump in Pomona. But clearly that didn't happen, because remember that up and down year I told you about? Yeah, we had 2 really down weekends in Vegas. It was not a good experience.
Right. So Unruh wins Stampede Speed, Texas Fall Nationals.
Yep.
I remember being down there and interviewing him at the top end and thinking, like, all right, this is big. You go to Vegas and it's the down of the up and down. And so now you're going to Pomona. You're already west, right? You're going to Pomona. Last ditch. But you didn't know at that moment that it was must win, though, right? Like, how did that shape up? Tell me about the strategy play going into your final chance to win a world championship, and you have limited opportunity.
Well, we didn't know it was must win when we left Vegas, because I told you my son watches the points, and he'd already had it figured out. Dad, you have to win this race, and Phil has to go out by 4th round if you have a shot at this. So we knew we had to win the thing. But we also looked at our season and went, okay, runner up, win, runner up. Hey, if there's every year we could possibly make the final, things are going our way. I seem to be driving a little better sometimes. That maybe this could still happen. So we were optimistic, even though we knew our odds were really small realistically.
The up and down season, though, right? Like it was flowing right. Like you were down, which means you got one more race to come back up, and that's what had happened.
I guess that's one way to look at it. It truly is that way all year.
Like the fly walking across the mirror. Very, very interesting. All right, so just walk me through the Auto Club finals. And you and I spoke on a stage on the top end. You were hoisting the trophy. Right. It's Cinderella. It's a movie. It's a movie script. It's unlikely. Yeah. Nobody expects it, except it happened.
Right. Well, you see my family in the pictures. We had to act all along as though, even though the odds were slim, we still had a shot at it. And we kept saying, well, what if we win? If we win, we want our family to be there with us. So my son had been there the whole time with us. He'd been with us one of the weekends in Vegas, and we had planned on him coming in Pomona because he'd been a real crucial part to planning rounds, analyzing opponents. Ryan's a super street racer here in D3, and we've just worked really closely together this year at planning rounds. And I told him, I said, I don't know that I can do this without you with me. So we knew he was going to be there. So his wife, Jordan, and our daughter, Kristen, we also arranged for them to come out and be with us. You know, we had to look at it like we're going to Pomona. We're going to go race. We may never be out west again, so we're going to Pomona. We have the chance to go race at that racetrack. So let's let them come out and be a part of it and be there. And I'm pretty glad that we did. What'd
you think of Pomona?
You know, we had been there one other time, just kind of sightseeing, without all of the equipment and the vendors and everything there. My first impression of the track was, man, this place is getting rough. But when you fill everything in and get all the racers in there and they get it all dolled up for the event, much better. Much better. It was a lot of fun to race there. It's such a unique place. A lot of the tracks around the country are, but Pomona definitely has its uniqueness.
So Phil goes out. So part of the deal is open, but you still had more work to do. That's where I want you to pick it up, because you know your son is planning runs, and maybe you could explain that a little bit for some of the fans out there that don't understand exactly what that is. That's a big process, right? Like, this is what it's going to look like. Maybe you tell me how you guys handle it without revealing secrets. But so Phil goes out, the door is open. You've got to win at that point. What, 3 rounds?
Phil went out first round, so we had 5 more to go.
Okay, so he went out first round. The door is just open for you. He is and not a factor in the finals. It's just about you going through an NHRA national event with a must-win scenario.
Right.
Easy.
Yeah. So Friday, our elimination round, first round, was pretty early in the day. I was probably as nervous about first round as any of them, because I was racing somebody who didn't have a traditional stop. He was throttle stopping at a different point on the track, and a big problem with going to a new area and racing is you don't know anybody. You don't know how they race. You haven't never paid attention to their tendencies. And that's a big part of being successful, I think, in throttle stop racing, is understanding what to expect in the lane next to you. So I didn't know anybody. Like I said, first round racing a stop that was not a traditional stop up front on the track, but one that's mid-track or later. We ended up getting by that round, which was a blessing. And then we get back to the trailer, and my wife says, I think Phil lost. And then the reality of, holy cow, okay, we have a real shot at doing this. We never got ahead of the next round. I think a big part of why I was not nervous most of the weekend was having Ryan there, because he helped me plan out the rounds so much that I didn't have to. And I think when you start digging into some of the details of what you expect the next pass to be, or what the scenarios could be, or what if this, what if that, that's when it would be easy to get nervous, especially when there's a lot of time between rounds, which is normal at a national event. And he was really helpful for that reason. But so we go into Saturday morning. Let me back up. Friday, when we won, it was early, and we were looking at this whole day. And I felt like the worst thing for me would be to sit around the racetrack all day, because we weren't racing again until Saturday. So my kids had rented a car, so we hopped in the car and we went sightseeing the rest of the day. We were gone the whole rest of the day Friday from the track. Didn't get back till evening after everything was done, because I just felt mentally that was the right thing to do. So Saturday morning we get up.
What sites did you see? Where'd you go? You went to In-N-Out Burger and had a double with cheese, and then
we went to In-N-Out when we were in Vegas, so we didn't go to In-N-Out this time. Our daughter-in-law really wanted to go see the Hollywood sign, so we drove in to see the Hollywood sign. We went down to Rodeo Drive, walked around, looked at all the fancy stuff, and then we ended up, because my daughter's a pretty big Disney fan, so we ended up driving all the way back to just the shopping area of Disneyland. So that's what we did in the evening. So it's a pretty long day, but we got to hit a little something that everybody liked.
But your head was clear. I like that strategy. Your head was clear. If you're at the track, you're hearing about it. People are talking about it. They're coming up to you. You got a chance. Right. You need to do this, Bob. Good luck. All that. And it's like, oh my gosh, just like overloading you. You checked out. You went and saw Mickey. You gave him some money, and then you came back to the track on Saturday. That's
exactly right. Yep, we got up Saturday morning. There's 3 rounds, and I looked at the schedule and thought, from a rhythm standpoint, I like the way the rounds are laid out. Timing wise, yes, there was some time between rounds as there is at Indy National, but it was pretty consistent between the rounds. And so we did some planning for the next opponent. And I don't remember who rounds 2, 3, and 4 were exactly. I know Matt Treadway, Damon Bustamante, were a couple of them that I believe we raced on Saturday. But we had good races. Thankfully, the planning that we did ahead of time was correct, I guess. At least we thought through all the different scenarios, and I was able to identify that going down track and make the right decisions at the finish line. Traditionally, I am a horrifically bad finish line driver. I would say that is definitely my weakness, but this year was a lot better just because the way we plan rounds out. And when I mean plan, we talk about track position and what if I have the light, what if they have the light, who's going to be here, what are their tendencies, what can we see from previous runs that they like to do or don't usually do. So we kind of script a race that we think is going to happen and then identify some things that might be different. And hopefully I can think quick enough to identify those, go down track and make a decision. And I did most of the time.
All right, final round.
Mm-hmm.
I got like Joe. You got to go to the top end. This could be a world championship thing. I'm like, I'm nervous for you.
Sure,
nervous, right? Like this is as big as it gets. We got all this Camping World Series champion stuff going on, but in the Lucas Oil Series, like here we go, and you're going up against a former world champ, like one of the greats out there. Nothing easy about this one, right? Like I think he was 2 years ago's champ. I think. So. A recent champion, you got to get through Pretzler. Take us through the pre-race, the race, and then that win light coming on when it's not a story where you're at home becoming the champion. Like you made it happen by winning a round, by winning the Auto Club finals to become Super Gas champ.
I wasn't nervous again, which a lot of people have told me I can't believe that you weren't nervous. And maybe a lot of people still wouldn't believe it, but Ryan and I had talked through some scenarios and planned some things out. And I just felt a real peace about the whole day. I've told other people, I feel like God gives me a peace when I asked him for it, going down the racetrack. And, at this point, we've gone from 3rd to 2nd in national points. Yes, we wanted to win the championship, but if we went home in 2nd, 1, we made progress. We went west and did accomplish something. And number 2 in the world is nothing to hang your head about. That's for sure. We all want to win it, but number 2 is nothing to be upset about. So we knew we'd accomplished great things. Maybe I was hungry and competitive, but at the same time, I was content with what we'd accomplished so far. So I wasn't super nervous. One of the pictures that you took, not that you took, but that you keep showing is from the staging lanes right before the final round. And I don't think you can see the nervousness on my face. I mean, I wasn't nervous. There you go. We've been talking to some friends, the Buttoners in the staging lanes, and she even noticed that I wasn't nervous. She made a Facebook post. If you're wondering how Bob's doing, he's calm and cool back here in the staging lanes. I think that's about what she said.
Wow.
So we planned out the race and we were ready. I could have gotten a lot more nervous because I didn't realize that in one of the finals there'd been a crash, and it took them a good little while to get us up there to run the final. But driving through
the Taylor Vetter situation.
Yeah, it sure was. So that delayed things a little bit. Thankfully, she did not get hurt or tear up equipment any more than she did. But so
as spectacular as you were going to be, you are not going to be more spectacular than Taylor Vetter on that given day.
That's for sure. That's for sure. You know, you drive through those gates at Pomona, which are unlike any other. And we hadn't made a national event final before. So all of the fanfare and the circumstance that surrounds timing, NHRA timing the finals just right. And getting down the track is different because everything is on a specific time schedule. They give all of the finals plenty of time for them to be announced and discussed, and that's really cool. I really like the way NHRA does that. But so we drive in, we finally turn the corner, we get in the water box, and at that point, I don't think I never thought about, hey, this is for the national championship. I didn't really even think a whole lot about this is for our first national event, Wally. And I try not to do that because I feel like if I get myself worked up in any way different than what we do in normal rounds, I'm just opening myself up for some sort of dumb error. And I've certainly done enough of those in my lifetime, and I didn't want to commit any of those on that day or any of the whole weekend. So I just never let my emotions really get to me. And going down track, if you watch the video after I cross the finish line, I mean, I look half dead in the car. I'm not doing anything. Ryan goes, "What in the world? Why weren't you yelling, screaming, pumping your fist, doing something?" And I don't want it to look like I wasn't excited, but I knew we had just pulled off basically the impossible. And it just took a minute for it to be real, quite honestly. It wasn't until after I pulled off the track and almost shut the car off that I gave a big scream and pumped my fist a couple of times. But it was just very surreal when the light came on.
Wow. Well, what a great story. Your first national
at
historic Auto Club Raceway, soon to be In and Out. I guess now it technically is In and Out Burger Raceway.
Right.
At the finals, where such history has happened, the run, everybody talks all the history that happened there. You win your first national to become a world champion. You turn the corner, and it was chaos down there. This team
it was chaos.
Stacked up. Talk about that scene. Did you know where to go? It was nuts.
It was chaos. Well, I figured I pulled off the track, and I think I stopped right at the end of the red carpet. I thought, I bet I'm supposed to be here. So, of course, I'm not familiar with everything that goes on down there, but I think it was extra nutty because everything was, from a time standpoint, everything was crunched into a smaller time period after cleaning up the Taylor Vetter incident. And I know you did all your winter interviews down at the end of the track instead of doing the normal Parade of Champions up by the stands. But it was pretty nutty. So I'm standing there, and it wasn't too long. My family comes rolling up on the golf cart, and I got to share the experience with them for the first time. They hop off screaming and yelling. You probably heard and saw all that, I would imagine. And that was really cool. And I got to tell you, Randy Lynn videoed on her phone from the starting line. Somehow her and Bo got to the finish line way before the family, and she was down there. She videoed from her phone everything that went on. So we've got all of that stuff captured, which is now just priceless family memories. The family rolling up on the golf cart, jumping off, screaming, everybody hugging. And so at that point, I'm at the red carpet waiting for you. And that was pretty fun. That was pretty fun to do.
It was a great time. It was a great time for me to be able to see that in a moment. That's the best thing that I get to do, honestly. It's to share that moment. I'm a bracket racer. I know how impossible it is to win all these races. There's the same couple of people that somehow find success, and you got your first national event win. You won the finals. You became a world champion and made all those people who believed in you feel good about it. Right? It paid off.
Yeah.
Bob, that's such a great story. Who do you want to thank? As you look back at this year, I'm sure there's too many people, but the primaries, name drop them, thank them, because this is your world championship interview.
Yeah, well, there are people that we partner with for engine work. Dennis Woody in Thorntown, Indiana, nice small town machine shop, does great work. He actually came to the house, went over all the valve springs, which we found a bad one before we made the trip west. He just came and did that because he wanted to. So we love working with folks like Dennis. We love the products that we use, from K&R, APD, and there's a gentleman locally, Bill Carter at Automotion Race Cars, and he has a parts shop called Automotion Race Cars, but 2-lane performance, where he builds and does a lot of chassis work. I don't know what it'd be like racing in this area without him, because he's always there. He does wonderful work, and we're thankful for him, and his son Austin too, that works with him. But can't thank anybody enough more than my wife, who wants to see me race. If you're lucky enough to have a spouse who loves to enable you to race, there's just no bigger blessing. And that's just a small part of our great relationship, but love her to death. My family, Ryan, especially, who always, we're a team at this point. You watch your kids grow up. They race. Both of our kids raced in junior dragsters, and you grow up to now partner with them in big cars. That's pretty special. Great family time, great memories. And I have to give a shout out today. I don't know if you can see the shirt I'm wearing today. Just got this today.
Yes. I already spoke. Lance Abbott, our top sportsman world champion.
Told him I was going to be sporting his shirt today if I got it, and it showed up on the porch today at lunchtime. So
thank you for that. Thank you for setting up the interview for me with Lance. For those that don't know, he's not on Facebook. He's in social media desert, which is probably good for his mental health. But you told him to reach out to me, and he did, and we're going to schedule him for the next couple of weeks. And so thank you for doing your booking tests on WFO as well.
Good. Absolutely. Well, we met a lot of new great people when we were out west, even before the championship, but especially after the championship. It's so cool the way that the banquets are set up, and you get to spend so much time in various places with the other champions. And so that was really fun to spend time with all of them and celebrate together.
Well, that, Pechanga resort that we went to, that was the first time we had been there, and it worked very well for exactly that purpose. In the previous years, it was like downtown Hollywood Bowl, Dolby Theater, where they have the Academy Awards. And it was very neat. Don't get me wrong. Oh man, I'm right in the middle of Hollywood.
Right.
But that situation means not everybody can stay in the same place. And the fact that everybody was pretty much staying in the same place, and you walk through the restaurants and the casinos, and all you see are racers, everybody, know everybody. That was very special for the hangout and the end of season kind of wind down. You guys had a great banquet. You did a great job with your speech. And then the Camping World Series banquet was awesome as well. After party. I know you were there. I love that Lance got shirts made already. That's smart.
That's really cool. I don't know if I can do this.
Do it.
Can you see it?
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah, you did a great job, and they're really cool. So
available for sale somewhere.
They are actually.
There you go.
They are actually for sale. They still have a lot more. So
awesome. Bob, this is great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I followed your story. Bo and Randy Lynn are friends, and they were talking you up from, right around St. Louis time. Like, hey, this is a thing. This is happening. This could happen. Keep your eye on it. And and I love when racers do that, right? Like, give me a little more insight into something maybe I don't have the full story on, so that I can just pay attention. And they did. And so I did pay attention. And for you to do what you did, it's just nuts, man. It's nuts. And congratulations. Thank you for coming on WFO, sharing your story. Are you going to title defense? Like, what's up for 2023 now? You going back out there to try to go back to back? You going to run the full thing? You chasing points? What are you doing? Where you starting?
We're going to chase points. We might as well. Our national event and divisional entry fees are going to be a lot less than they were last year, so we might as well go racing. It's not going to cost us as much, and we probably will just, as long as health allows, we're probably just going to keep doing this sort of thing every year. I can just see that happening. So, we will always race primarily for fun. When we get too wrapped up in the points championships, that's when you start racing poorly, in my opinion. So. We're going to go race, have fun, do the best we can each round. And at the end of the year, you stand back and look at the results.
That's it. Larry Sears out there. Good job. Very exciting end to the year. Absolutely. Bob, congratulations. Please forward my best to the family. Thank you for doing this on WFO Radio. We love our Lucas Oil Series racers, and your story is unlike any that is out there. So enjoy it, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bob Locke, Super Gas World Champion. There you go. One more time. What a story that is. That is just pure insanity. What he was able to do, he was able to pull it off. You know, you think about Phil Unruh and like, oh man, these people who invest so much of their lives, but that's just the way it is in the Camping World Series. The agony and the ecstasy, the thrill, and the morbid depression that comes with not scoring a championship victory. But amazing stuff. Can't wait to see Bob back out there. All right, guys, listen, big breaking news. Look at Chuck. Great interview, Joe. I liked Bob before, but I like him even more now. Great champion and well-deserved. Absolutely. And that's why we do things like this. All of these people, even for me, like Bob and I have spoken, but that's like a get to know you, full debrief, understand session. And that's why hopefully every super gas racer, guys, every super gas racer will share this show on your social media. Not for me and not for WFO and our great sponsors that we love, but for the class. Like the methodology and the brain activity that is going into winning a Super Gas World Championship is equivalent to anything else. Maximum. All the way. WFO. They had to figure it out. It's like, hey, man, to his son, you can't not be here. I can't do it without you. You've got to be there. Team effort. And a lot of people don't understand that. But the more they hear from a drag racer, like, who's this guy? He's a drag racer. He's a world champion. Listen to his story. Check him out. How do you not fall in love with it and go down to the stripe and watch him race down there at 1320 where all the action happens? That's what I think. All right, let's talk a little bit about, I am going to name check the sponsors again, but the big breaking news in the NHRA, I don't want to just wait until, Tuesday with Reinhart, because we're going to have a lot of news to talk about then. But this is a big deal. The Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty NHRA Challenge to debut during the 2023 regular season, which is very, very interesting. NHRA and Mission Foods, this is right from NHRA.com, by the way, guys. I'm reading it right from the website. You should go to the website. You should click on it. You should share it because this is really good. It's very interesting. NHRA and Mission Foods, the world's leading brand for tortillas and wraps, which everybody should just buy them from now on. It's also because they're really good and they're shaped like cars. Have partnered together for the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty NHRA Challenge, an exciting new race program for the 2023 NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series season. Beginning at the NHRA Arizona Nationals in Phoenix on March 24th through 26th, the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty NHRA Challenge will introduce competitive racing to the Saturday schedule at regular season events. During the NHRA Camping World Series campaign, pitting semifinalists from the previous race against each other in a rematch for all professional categories as part of a must-see challenge. All professional categories: Pro Stock Bike, Pro Stock, Funny Car, Top Fuel. Rematch of the previous race's semifinals. Why don't they have one in Gainesville? Because there's no previous race. It's the start of the season. Plus, we've already got the Top Fuel call-out. So Gainesville semifinalists will rematch on Saturday in Arizona. They will face off during the first qualifying session on Saturday, with the two winners then matching up in the final qualifying session with an additional purse and bonus points for the countdown to the championship on the line. What? Adding another marquee attraction to the NHRA race weekend. The Too Fast, Too Tasty NHRA Challenge is also part of the Mission Foods overall motorsport initiative to help racers and race teams. And that's all that I need to read. You need to go to NHRA.com to find out the rest of the details, like how many points, how much money, all of that stuff. And I'll tell you this, because I did a little bit of research. Somebody on Twitter asked me, and I said I would answer it on the show. So here's the deal. What if somebody doesn't go? That's a good question. I do think it's kind of interesting that everybody tries to punch holes in anything new that comes down the pike. Like, what about it? So let's say a part-timer goes to Gainesville and makes the semis, but is not going to go to Phoenix. Now, I think the possibility to win more money is an incentive to go to Phoenix. So I think it also incentivizes it. But let's say that person doesn't go. They're going to go back and find the person that lost second round with the quickest elapsed time and fill that spot. Well, what if that person's not there? Then they will go to the next quickest. And that's coming from competition department through Phil Burgess. As I asked the question, there is a system in place. It is much too much to be typing into the original story. But it happened like once last year where somebody went to the semifinals, might have been Jack Wyatt in Denver, but didn't show up the next race, something like that. If the person goes to the semifinals and then doesn't show up to the next race, they'll go back to round 2 and find the quickest winner and put him in the field. And there you go. I think it's interesting. I think it's exciting. I think it makes competition on Saturday. I think it's interesting about the points dynamic, but it only happens in the regular season and it doesn't happen at 4 wide races. So no 4 wides, all the other races, it'll happen. And another reason to get out to the NHRA. Let's see what everybody else has to say. Sarah, love it. Looking forward to more Lucas Champ interviews. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Sarah. Should I be sending these to you? Can you do something with these? I think you probably can. Better yet, you can just go to our YouTube page and share them. Chuck says, loves the idea. What does Jeff say? Jeff says, thanks, Joe. Listening with TIG torch in hand. Maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe that's what the podcast is for. You know, podcast is audio only. You can TIG weld with that. The video show, I don't know. Not so much. Do you, Jeff. Whatever works for you. All right, a couple of things, guys. I want to tell you a little bit about, like, our WFO merch store is rocking. The WFO merch store. You can get it right through the mobile app or our website. All kinds of WFO merch. And it's growing all the time. It's growing like gangbusters all the time. Mission Foods. Thank you, Mission Foods, for giving us a reason to share this photograph of Flying Ryan Ayler. Like, what do we do with this? It's back and it's relevant again. Flying Ryan. What's going on under those chips? Nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to know. Our Patreon show. This is membership. People pay a couple of bucks a month for the VIP behind the scenes stuff. Typically, it was just me giving insight into the sport, Monday Motivation, our Ignition show. But now we actually have a real show on there. And it's called Hear It From Heiner. Pro Stock crew chief, race winning crew chief Michael Heiner answering questions from the Patreons and giving details to the behind the scenes of what's going on out there in Pro Stock. Everybody loves it so far. So you can go to patreon.com/WFO radio. If you want to support the show, that's great. Let me tell you about everybody else. FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters, .90 Racing, Big Money Bracket Racing, Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, your very powerful street car, monster trucks, mega trucks. They do the transmissions. Certainly one of the best in the business. Total Seal Piston Rings, Foggett, of course, Bernie Speed Shop, Phillips Connect, on board with WFO. But also Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. This is for friends and for family. You want to try out a dragster? They've got a program called the Dragster Adventure. For $399, they just show up and they get to drive dragsters during the day. That's awesome. No responsibility. You get to hang out with Frank. Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com. Marvin Rodak is a drag racer in Fort Worth, Texas. He's been roasting coffee since the 70s, and he has access to the best coffee in the world. If you're a coffee file, if you're one of those folks, call Marvin, 817-924-6821. And then there's samtech.edu for the next generation of engine builders, crew members, machinists, drag racers. They've got engine block programs, CNC programs, motorsport EFI tuning. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. Call Brian Massengill. Tell him you heard it on WFO Radio. Amazing stuff. We got another comment up there. I am sharing on all the divisional pages, says Sarah. Way to go, Sarah, who does the divisional stuff for the National Hot Rod Association. Works her tail off. And we've got a couple up there already. We did Jimmy Hidalgo. We've got a bunch. Doug Gordon. We got a bunch already. So hopefully the WFO will get out there. And everybody out there, subscribe. We're going to have a big year. Next week, big news. Big, massive news. News that I think is going to make a lot of people very happy. And I'm super excited to tease it and tease all of you just like this. So be ready on Tuesday. The WFO show will probably happen around 2:00. I can't promise exactly when, because it'll be right after the big breaking news press conference. Well, we just dropped Mission Foods' huge investment in NHRA. More money, more points, more racing. Racing expanded to Saturday. Huge news. Saturday crowds are already pretty big. Huge news. What could we possibly have? What could we possibly have next week? I wonder. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thanks to Bob. Thanks to Bob's fam. Thanks to everybody out there who checks out this show. Spoke with Jimmy Hidalgo. He's in the feed. It's up in the podcast archive. WFO has a mobile application. It is absolutely free. You can download it. Your iPhone, an Android phone. You don't already have the WFO mobile app. You need to get this thing because it's got everything. Like, are we on there in the video section right now? We're not live, but it pops up right after. So there you go. Super excited. All right, guys. That's it for the week. We got a lot of listening. Hit those archives. We'll see you on Tuesday. I'm going to go work on my own car now. Appreciate you all. And see you next week. Thanks to Bob Locke, WFO.